Bring it back.
Hi guys, I'm Evolos, and today we are back with another episode of Ostriv. So if you remember, in the last episode we continued to set up our little industry. We got our harvest in with our sunflowers. We managed to start to turn this into sunflower oil. We've still got quite a stock of sunflowers to transform, but once we've got a good supply of sunflower oil, we're going to look at trying to trade this with other towns nearby to try and use this to keep our economy afloat. And this is probably going to be our main export good. So we also need to look at getting these fields back up to health. Currently for this cycle I've got them set all to hemp. I think I'm going to get one more field built for this farm out here, which we'll probably leave fallow this year, where we're going to have the entrance to this field. Yeah, we'll probably do it like that way round and grow it that way, like that. And then we'll leave this one fallow probably for this year. So let's put it on fallow. Then at the end of this year, we want to try and get everything sort of into a bit of a cycle. I think we're going to try and get it so once everything's back to full nutrients, we're going to run potatoes, wheat, hemp, and then fallow again. To try and so we could either cycle this round so we get one per year, which is an option, or we could try and do it sort of all together, so we just have an entire, since food doesn't go off, we could have an entire year of potatoes, an entire year of wheat, an entire year of hemp, and an entire year of fallow, if that makes sense. So we're going to try and get that set up and cycling. I'll have a little bit of think how we're going to do that. I also was advised that it would be a good idea, instead of just deactivating fields, to keep them open but fallow. But I remember I did actually plant these with hemp instead, since because the hemp supplies wasn't really used very much, so I thought I might as well make use of that. That's our field for our cows, or bulls and ox, obviously, which clearly can't breed. I even see the ox being castrated as it is, has no gender symbol. That was a bit of an error on my part in a previous video. So I think the main thing to do is going to be to continue to grow our little housing. We want to try and get our village population up as much as possible, without sort of overdoing it all too much in one go. So we're going to build another little house sort of down here by the shore. I want to get that to nicely line up like that. We can continue growing down here. Once we hit, we'll go and fast forward a little bit. Once we start to hit summer again, I'm going to reassign people to the fishing docks. Since over this last year I didn't really use them at all, we were reliant entirely sort of on the potato and the wheat, which seems probably a little bit silly. It's probably good to have some people employed there. It's sort of a permanent source of employment anyway. Worryingly, the people seem to be getting poorer and poorer. But I mean, once we start to sell my oil to the other towns, which hopefully we'll start doing soon, we can expect to maybe decrease either the rent costs or increase the wages. So we've got village housing rent, at a cost per year, and then the basic wages. Actually, considering at the moment that the proportion of our income from housing rent is actually pretty small on a year-on-year basis compared to local sales, so it might be worth just knocking housing rent down a little bit. Given people are struggling for money, it makes sense just to make that cheaper, even if it cuts our yearly income. Since hopefully we've still got enough reserves to last us through till we've got our oil properly set up, and then hopefully we're going to be able to sell this oil and make a good profit anyway. So this house should be now under construction. It is. There's plenty of idle labourers. So it's good that we've got sort of a good amount of people available. Since that's the case, I shall set off the second house. Not quite how I want it to go. That's the boundary to the other house. No, we'll have it a little bit further away. Like, no, not joining. Uneven terrain. No, this terrain is just too uneven to place there, I think, entirely. Okay, we'll have to go a little bit further up. So there we go, opposite this house here. So we'll get those two houses built. That'll increase our villager numbers a little bit more. We can start to assign people back to other jobs. Having said that, we have been using up some nails, so we'll assign a worker back to the smithy. I think we're probably about out of iron almost entirely, apart from what little bit is in the smithy. We have a look on our overview. I can't see any iron available other than that 1.3, which is 1.6, sorry, that's currently in the smithy. We've still got a worker working at the thatchery, which is good. We've got plenty of hay stocks. We do need to invest in some more cattle to keep us through over the winter. To get our cattle stocks back up and going a little bit more. Particularly now they fixed the bug with the water supply in the cowshed. We can expect to be able to support 10 or 20 cattle much more easily. And then once we've got that up and going, we can perhaps start to get our leather production up and running a little bit more better as well. But I think I'll probably, before we invest in that, I'll rather wait till we get our sunflower oil production sorted so that we can sell this to nearby towns. Plus I want to have a little play around to make sure I sort of, considering it costs a reasonable amount per turn to send a messenger to another town to start trading, I want to make sure I can send it to the right town and be able to trade before I sort of save the game and do a video on it, because we haven't got that much money to play with and it could be a bit expensive if I end up going and messing it up. So these people are still losing more money. God, if they're going to be starving soon, they'll be out of money entirely. We also need to get people to decommission this wooden bridge, since its construction has failed. So hopefully that will get workers assigned to it and that will be completely dismantled. We'll then perhaps have a go at rebuilding it. For some reason it just didn't really work out, it bugged out. So if we have a go at getting this rebuilt, and we'll try and place it back in a similar place, maybe at a slightly different angle, because I would still like to put some houses over here, and I'd still like to base my village sort of around the river rather than just on one side. After this, what other things have we got to consider? The main things we've got to consider are looking at building more farms. I think is going to be the main thing going forwards. Either more sunflower farms or more food farms. I think first we'd probably be looking at more food farms, particularly given food doesn't really seem to go off. It makes sense to have an abundance of food farms, and if we get too much we can always sell it anyway. So I'm going to build another farm there, and this should give me a reasonable amount of land over here to turn into farmland. So our sort of village is getting quite long, but it's sort of growing out in terms of the farming community around it. So that's again why I want to get on this side of the river as well, so it doesn't get sort of too stretched and elongated, my little town. So the bridge is being dismantled back down, which is good. We've also got the house under construction, and hopefully this is providing a reasonable amount of employment for all my little peasants, so that no one's running out of money entirely. Obviously this stupid mayor is obviously the richest person in town, and most of the people seem to have jobs assigned to them. Yes. So yes, that's pretty much that for now. What else have we got that we could do with building? We could build another well. This probably wouldn't actually do any harm to build another well near the farms down this end of the village. Particularly if anyone else makes use of well water. So the farm's going to be built there, so we'll build another little well there, giving our villagers plenty, our builders, sorry, plenty of tasks to do. I just want to make sure we've got enough wood. Yes, the foresters are keeping well on top of the wood supply, which is good. I think one thing the developer is looking to bring in rather soon is regrowing forests. I think at the moment it doesn't really matter too much, but if you have to consider originally this forest sort of grew out along the outskirts of this village, I placed this forestry right up against it. But now every time we build, the foresters have to go quite far in to cut down more trees. And I guess while the forest is extremely vast, and I think I'd run out of room to build long before the forest actually gets depleted, the forest supplies will eventually begin to run out. So it is something that does need to be kept on top of a little bit. So we're now up to 60 people, but family is running out of money. It's this family. They're now in debt as well. You would think, given that this man works as a carpenter, he'd have a reasonable chance of employment. I don't suppose I can hire specific women. If he is a carpenter as a fixed position, and he should be staying in that position, we can probably manually manipulate the wage for this one position, hopefully. Now if I check another building, say the smithy, yeah, so the wages have stayed at 100% for the smithy here, but for the carpenter, yeah, I'm paying him 150%. So that's a good bit of advice actually. You could all probably learn from, which I've just learned from, is the fact that you can manually now manipulate wages. So if there's one family that's particularly struggling, as in this one because they've not got any money, if they're in a fixed job, you know, I guess if they're just in the construction trade or something like that, where they're a labourer, where you can't really manipulate it. But if they're assigned to a specific building like this bloke, then it can be quite easy to manually manipulate his wage options. On that same regard, I wonder if I can manipulate down. No, it doesn't give me the option. Okay, but if for example I had the option, I could manipulate down the wage of the mayor. That could be also something worth doing. Or if I have any other villagers that are, you know, particularly wealthy. Sort of this bloke obviously works for the forestry. He's obviously worked there a long time. He's got a reasonable amount of money. So we could manipulate down his income. Obviously, this family is still running a little bit low on the money front, but I think they're the only one. And I think now, hopefully, that 150%, they'll slowly start to get back on their feet, and it will be less of a problem for them. So, what other things have we got we could do? We could start to think about beautifying our village a little bit. We've got a few little benches maybe around the village centre. Where people want to sit, so we've got a well there, the market stall. Yeah, so between the market stall would be a good place to have a little bench. How close can you get that way? One there. And let's try and place another one next to it. Like so. A couple of benches next to the market stall where people can get food and supplies from. Still, most of the supplies seem to be potatoes, flours, still in fairly short supply. Mostly, I think, because this windmill is just struggling to keep up with production. How much wheat is there available? 17.6. Potato stocks have actually fallen a reasonable amount, given that we've now got to try and last 2 years on this potato stocks. So come March, we really do want to get our fishing stocks back and running. Also, I'm thinking about building another windmill then, since you know that really can't keep up, and particularly if we get another farm up and running, it's really going to struggle. So where could we fit another windmill? We could put another windmill in there. So we'll get a windmill built there on the edge of that forest. Where is that person going? Is that someone having left the village? Ah, is it them who's left the village? Okay, I think someone has just left. It says no housing available. But it looked like someone was leaving the village. Maybe someone just immediately moved back in. All these houses seem to be occupied. Even the impoverished family, which is now starting to recover a little bit. Look, there's appears to be staying. Okay, I don't know. Not really a problem. It's not a problem for me. Hopefully all these people are all relatively poor as well, particularly where both of them are unemployed like there. They're not out of money, they have just low on money. That'll be fine. So, and then we'll also get more employment once we get these fishing docks back up and running as well. So considering that everyone's claiming there's unemployment, there's enough vacancies here for the farm, which people could be making use of, but no one is actually there to build it. I think everyone's taking a rest. Yeah, here all the labourers are now working. Hopefully they'll bring lots of clay and stuff over and we can get this construction project going up pretty quickly. I'm glad we built the extra carts. All those carts are currently out, and all the ones in the village centre bar one. So we could perhaps do with even a third cart park. Might not be a terrible idea. So let's think about that as an option. Where could we build a third cart park? And then that will give that really poor man in the carpentry something to do as well. Let's build one sort of out here on the edge of this farm here. Build it. I want to leave enough room for people to travel around to get to the roads. So we'll order 4 carts, which is fine. Then the man at the carpentry, yep, he's got enough stuff to get working on them. He's excellent. Okay, so he's busy building away on his carts, and he's now starting to get sufficient wealth to survive on as well, which is good. The bridge, couldn't find nail to dismantle the bridge. I'm not sure what you would need nails for to dismantle the bridge exactly. Maybe you couldn't find anywhere to store the nails. Let's just in case that was the case. Let's just store. I don't know if it'll let me. I want to store a lot more than sort of 20 nails. This could do with a little typing box, which would allow me to type in somewhere to store the nails rather than have to manually increase this to like 100. Maybe if I do this, it will allow me to allow them to take the nails away from the site. But it seems like they're struggling to completely dismantle the project, which is a shame. But oh well, you know, it is still an early access game. It's still very much in alpha, so we are going to expect a few bugs. But we are now starting to hit the end of February, and we are starting to get the summer snows. The winter snows even are starting to melt away. So I'm going to assign one worker each to the fisheries, which is good. Can't quite fish in winter, but February is very nearly over, and then the rivers will melted, and people should be back to fishing, and that should hopefully relieve a little bit of the burden on the potatoes, because those potatoes have still got to, and along with the wheat, have got to get me through to summer, to a whole year, because the hemp planting has started. That means I also want to assign another worker to the sunflower. You know, they've got a lot of things to sow, an awful lot to sow. That's probably a good reason to leave this field fallow for now, because the amount of workers I actually need just probably far exceeds sort of the amount of stuff I have available. A lot of people have been assigned to labourers to one farm, and the other farm is calling out for labourers. Hopefully this one's being sowed now. It's got the benefit of being ploughed. That's another thing, once we get round to selling all this sunflower oil, we need to start looking. Ah, that's interesting. I've hit a sunflower oil production limit. I wonder if I can increase. No. Okay. I hadn't considered that as a problem. Yeah, once we've got these fields sown, hopefully, we can look at getting some more cattle. Once we get this sunflower oil sold, we can look at getting some more cattle, which we can use to get a plough and to get all this sort of stuff running a bit more efficiently. The woman is ploughing the other field, which is good. We'll get all the hemp in, and this should give us clothes and stuff to keep us going for many years. So this family is running out of money again. I just don't understand. We'll have to pay him this man 200%. Now, hopefully that will be enough for him to actually then properly be able to afford to keep going. The carts are all still very much in heavy demand. Even the new ones that are being put in place in the third cart parking are being utilised. So cart use is very high at the moment. So most of the fields are almost fully planted. These are being ploughed and haven't sort of really had any resources taken out from the blue resource, and this one's going to be left fallow for this year, since can't really be asked to get it sorted. That one's sown. This one will soon be sown. It's got the rest of the people sorting it out, and this one's ploughed and then will be sown. So sort of pretty much come the end of March, sort of early April, I think we'll have all our fields up and running. We've got people out fishing, which is good. I'm sure the fish will very rapidly be gobbled up by the stools. Yeah, I think it is. If we get any people sort of stuck looking for jobs after we've sort of got our mill built and all the farms are planted, then we'll certainly be assigning more people to these fishing docks, because a good source of employment, and excess food is always good. Yeah, sort of look, 3 positions are starting to drop off now. We might start to get men looking for a job shortly. Well, we've got a woman looking for a job, no men looking for a job currently. And hopefully that last field is now almost planted. I think all the fields over here are now planted. They are. Well, they missed a little bit on the end of one of those sunflower fields, which is a shame. Yeah, there's a few open vacancies still. Perhaps assign one more. So we've got 3 people working at the fishing docks. So, and now we've got all the fields planted. Our crops are in and starting to grow. We've got our sunflowers to the north, and then our hemp harvest further down. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you have, please give it a like, comment, let me know what you think down below, and maybe even subscribe. That'd be awesome. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.